Welcome to the COVID Rant. I'm Sly.
And I do love beating Carlton, Spook. Well, I didn't personally beat them. I'd love to beat them. Well, not off, but beat them on the field. Well, even then that might be dubious.
There's limits here, Spook. What do you think about the win over the Blues? So,
I think I just expressed it all. Sorry?
Darcy Cameron came back, unexpectedly almost.
I was pleasantly surprised. I'm just turning the speaker up a second, so just keep talking amongst yourself.
Yeah, so Cameron came back. Ginnivan was made sub. Starting to get closer to what you'd think would be a full-strength team. I don't know. They've got injuries, but I don't know who they are because most of their main players are out there. They have a lot to play for. Voss's head's on the chopping block. And, it's one of those games where typically I'd think, I'm really worried because we're Collingwood. This is the sort of game we drop and all that sort of shit. So that opening quarter just to smash him, and then that second quarter to smash him some more, that was so satisfying. And if it wasn't for some, we can do this when we're winning. If it wasn't for some really shit umpiring, I think that margin would have been bigger at half-time. I mean, Curnow, you can't scowl at him without giving him the free kick, apparently.
Yeah, what did he end up with? 6 frees. 3 of them were directly in front that resulted in goals. How many? What was Carlton's score at the end, apart from laughable?
7-15.
So realistically, they're a 4-goal side.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I've heard different reports about that second half. Turtle said that Carlton just flooded to mitigate the damage because they knew they weren't in it. Spoke to another friend, Phantom, and he just said that, we were never under threat in that game at any point. We really controlled it, so we were just happy to play the tempo. I know you're not happy with the tempo. You would like to just break their backs.
Well, there's an element of truth in that. I think I would love to see us destroy them and win by 100 points. I probably was a little bit disappointed how lax they became. I think towards the end of the second quarter, they sort of took the foot off the pedal. They started making silly skill errors, silly decisions. It's just like the intensity's dropped out of the game. It's almost like they didn't know how to play to that slower tempo, which was it surprised me somewhat. But then you looked at that third quarter, and it looked like it was just a solid arm wrestle. And then at the end of the quarter, I think Blues kicked 1-4 to our 1-2. They won the quarter by 2 behinds. It actually felt like at the end of the third quarter, it felt like it should have been a higher scoring quarter for both sides. It was just the oddest thing. It was just, and then the last quarter we kicked a couple, which was good, and clearly you kept thinking during that game that that 30 points, 32 points, just seemed to be that floating point that we just keep snapping back to. I think it was the biggest lead of the game was 41.
44 points. You know how I know that? Because Brian Taylor had to mention. You know how I know it was 44 points? Because Brian Taylor had to mention that was a famous margin for Collingwood.
Good.
1970 grand final reference, halftime.
Oh, he's a funny man, isn't he?
He's a fuckwit. Just as an aside, I mean, how does anyone think this guy is biased toward us? So, anyway, go back to,
the commentary I thought were some of the best cheering for the Blues. I mean, Brayshaw kept saying the Blues were not far off being back in it. They're like at any fucking given time, did the margin drop beneath 5 goals?
No,
that's a good view of what they're watching. It's incredible.
Oh, look, I don't mind them trying to keep interest in the game because otherwise people are going to change the channel. But BT, that kid's a fuckwit. Seriously, I wish I could just tell the club stop hiring. Every Collingwood supporter I know thinks he just hates the club, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he was left out of a 1990 premiership team. I don't know if it's just because he's a big goof. But fuck, it's painful listening to him commentate Collingwood games. And case in point, Jack Ginnivan gets his head ripped off. Tim Watson just says that's a free every day of the week, and if it was any other player, they would have got it.
And it was.
And Cameron Ling also says, yes, that's a free. And BT, he's fucking silent. So you can't even concede that, hey, yeah, I got this one wrong. I mean, Ginnivan got his head pulled off from behind. So how he knew how to duck something that was coming from behind. And that I mean, we'll go into that a little bit later. But the actual game, Cameron was good in the ruck. It's sort of good. Like he dominated Jack Silvani. I really wish, Collingwood was a little bit more tactical in just fucking. Like I wish McRae just came in and said, we've got the 2 ruckmen back. Jack Silvani has a tendency to scrag and wrestle, so hopefully the height and just throwing it out there like Malthouse would have to just sort of alert everyone. This is what happens. Do something about it instead of just ignoring it. I mean, Jack Silvani, he's made a career of just grabbing onto people's jumpers and pulling them out of the contest, but I guess that's in the DNA. So who the fuck cares?
So I wanted to laugh before at the statement about making a career.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too. Just some little sideways things. Ash Johnston's mark.
Oh, yeah, geez, how good. It's one of those ones, and I think it's always the case when you see these marks. Your brain sort of slows everything down and you watch it unfold in slow motion. And there was some interesting video that came out today. Someone had filmed it behind the goals.
Was it Zapruder?
No, sorry.
Was it Zapruder?
No. Might as well have been. It was on the shaky cam. But it's just like it gives you another appreciation for the height that he got up to. Like he leapt into who's their ruckman, Pittard or
picking that,
pitiful. That's a fair bit of height and like he's a big boy himself. And then to sort of come down and pretty much land sideways and stuff. And he did say, I think in the post match that he hurt himself during that thing. He's probably going to be out for the next 6 years now. Geez, it was a brilliant grab.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting game too because outside of like Darcy Moore was just sublime. I did call Champion Dart. He's down to 9 marks now, but by tomorrow he should be down to 8.
Have you ever in all your life heard of them going back and retrospectively reviewing stats and then changing them?
No, that it's.
You don't want to talk conspiracies, but fuck me dead.
Yeah. So I mean, Moore. He was sublime. He was the clear standout. He got 10 in the coaches' votes. Thought Mychik was really good. But like the midfield, I don't think we really had dominance. The 2 Dacoses, I know Josh Dacos got like 8 in the coaches' votes. No, I didn't think he was that good. He made that one really silly error where he's just sort of lair-rising in the middle and gave like a hospital handball and turned it over.
He wasn't alone though.
No, but this is what I'm saying. I don't think any of the midfield were that great. I might be wrong statistically, but like watching them, they didn't seem to have dominant games. The go was a little bit quieter than usual. They sort of floated in and out of the game. Tom Mitchell, Taylor Adams. I mean, Taylor Adams is frustrating. He's gone. Years ago, he used to have this ability, or not ability, but I should say, he used to try at least to make the play and try and create a better option. But, against Carlton, it was like, let me take everyone on and then just go to the first option I should have went to before. But now they got like a player on them, but I'll still go to them. And it was like, man, just fucking either make something new out of it or give it to that first option straight away. But
he might have been a bit lost though too because he is an inside player and there wasn't much of a need for a bloke like that.
Yeah. Their midfield smashed us up in the second half, and I thought that was just the bigger bodies were getting around the ball. I mean, again, I think we sort of went down the tempo and all that, but Nick Dacos has been a little bit quiet since. I don't want to say the Sydney game. I think it might have been the Adelaide game. Like there was one game he actually went off and he was getting a lot of work done on his calf, and he's just been a little bit quieter since then. That 50 he gave away was just really fucking stupid. Curnow got a free, which is a shock in itself, I guess. But Curnow got a free, 50 out on the boundary. And it was at a time like we were really smashing him. And Nick Dacos just played on and he gave away a 50. So
Nick Davis.
Nick Davis. He was brought down to the goal square. So Curnow, he just goaled. It was like, don't give him anything. Why are you doing stupid shit like that? So that was frustrating. In itself.
But again, I think the tempo of the game was that flat that I think it just threw a lot of them out of what they've been playing, that fast-paced, hard-running type of game when you've sort of just dropped to a canter and you do.
Well, he was still trying at that point because that was like second quarter or something.
Yeah. I'll be a little bit more forgiving.
Look, I've said this for about 98 weeks. Is like I like that game plan, but sometimes just fucking stop. Stop. They did it a few times that they played on, and it just sort of went to no one or went to stupid options. It's like, it's particularly if the opposition's sort of coming out, you just stop for a moment. And they started doing that later in the game, where they were actually doing a little bit, kicking back and forth and shit like that. What do you think of the Curnow umpiring? 6 free kicks to a forward. I mean, Cox hasn't gotten 6 free kicks in his fucking life up forward.
Look, you can argue a little bit that they were there. But the thing is, if every fucking forward got that on a platter each week, we'd be looking at 400 goals a game. It's just absurd how soft some of them were. The one that really irked me was the one at the top of the square. Where he's got a handful of Moore's jumper.
Yeah, Moore's jumper like that.
And then apparently, and I guess one of the 48 umpires are out there must have saw it, they said he had hold of the back of Curnow's jumper. I think I've seen 2 camera angles of it, and if it was there, it must have been a fleeting touch. But the thing is, you've got to go with that first one. Surely everybody saw the jumper hold.
Well,
but anyway,
I think
it was just pure charity.
One of my brothers said, he goes, I've been watching football since 71. I've never seen a forward get as many soft frees as Curnow did. And look, if they're there, they're there, fine. But then you got to pay him at the other end too. I mean, fucking Cox is going for things one-handed. Do you want to work out why he's doing that? Are they maybe holding his other arm so he has to go for a fucking mark one-handed? But, he doesn't get those sort of frees. So that's what pisses me off. I don't give a fuck what the free kicks are, but then you just have to pay him for both sides, which...
Yep.
Do you actually find it funny? Because the last few weeks, since that Essendon game, the Anzac Day game, so that's like, 6 weeks or whatever, I don't think we've had a really good run with the umpiring. I think we've actually been really blasted by umpiring, which is strange. Because we play a high-pressure game. You'd think we'd be winning free kicks.
It's not just us. The standard across the board just seems to be the fact that they've got like 90 of them out there now. Maybe it's thin the ranks. I believe there was one that was rumoured to be competent once. But who knows with what's left and what they're doing and what they're instructed to do. It just doesn't make sense. Did you see the GWS game where the umpire...
the 50 metre...
The Brent guy.
He kept calling him the wrong name, sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't the fucking player who was on the mark. And then he gets penalised because the umpire made the clear mistake.
And it's pivotal time of the game, too.
Oh, yeah. It just doesn't make sense. And the thing is, what frustrates the supporters and stuff is just that there's just no sense of accountability. It's not like, you don't imagine that you'd want to be filming them taken behind closed doors and beaten with a rod or anything for getting things wrong, but come out and acknowledge, with some absolute honesty about some of the things you fuck up. Otherwise, it's just a case of each week it's a token, well, we got that one probably a little bit wrong, but everything else that we fucked up was fine.
What should the club do about Jack Ginnivan in terms of the way he's being treated?
Oh, I think they're going to be seriously entertaining, formally complaining about it now. It's just a farce. You saw last week the couple around the necks that were given the opposition, yet we now are suddenly tarred with a Ginnivan brush. At some point, someone's going to injure him because you know that you can go in there and hit him hard and hit him high, and you're going to get away with it. I mean, the umpire you heard the mic explanation saying, I think he got him on the shoulder. Oh, fucking hell, mate. Seriously? There's video umpires and stuff up there. Surely, the fact that you can call and do someone's fucked up an interchange and have an extended conversation about something within seconds of it occurring, you can call after something like that happens and say, look, seriously, you've got that one wrong. You've got to go back and pay it or do something.
Well, the shoulder, isn't that high anyway? So if he's got him up there, isn't that like a high tackle? I thought it's meant to be there down, not there up.
Maybe they should paint lines in their arms to make it a little bit more obvious.
Look, I've said it before. The club, should actually be saying, look, we're going to now start exploring that this is an OH&S issue. You're meant to protect him. You're meant to provide a safe workspace.
Oh, there's a duty of care there, surely. Yeah.
And you're not doing it. And you've actually targeted, and fuckwits like Brian Taylor and Anthony Hudson have led this crusade against him. And as you said, opposition have impunity to just go out there and belt him. I mean, honestly, if Ginnivan was to start suffering concussions or later in life was suffering from concussions or, that condition that comes from concussion, he could walk into any fucking court of law and just go, you know what? This is a civil suit. It's going to be fucking huge. And I've got hundreds of hours of footage of them just whacking me in their head and the AFL constantly coming out and saying there was nothing wrong with it. and at this time where the AFL's meant to be protecting the head and being mindful of concussion, it's fucking appalling. And really, Gil McLachlan should resign. And the guy who's taking over should resign too. Yeah.
And apologise.
The amazing thing with the Ginnivan one is you're getting people who aren't aligned with Collingwood coming out and saying it's wrong. So you can't just run around and go, it's a Collingwood whinge. There's people win, and the thing is too, they're doing it to Ginnivan. So don't think that some other player, some other forward's going to be safe when they start doing, when it's perceived that they start doing it too much. So it's just fucking ridiculous. Really frustrating.
It's a shame that no one's actually rung up Selwood and asked what he thinks of it. Again, he made.
He played 484 games, and Anthony Hudson never said one thing about him ducking. But Ginnivan, in his second year of senior football, Hudson went straight after him from about round 3 or 4. It just, you're a fucker, Anthony Hudson.
Well, it's fair enough. It is self-inflicted. I mean, he keeps dropping those knees.
Yeah.
He's got to learn not to do it.
He keeps bending over to pick up the ball, so, how dare he?
I saw that he was parallel to the ground. I thought his knees were about to drop. That's how bad it is.
Nick Dacos jumper punch. I mean, he's been cleared, but...
Yeah, you think that might be a bit of a wake-up call?
I don't know. I mean, he's obviously getting targeted physically quite a bit. Josh Dacos got his jumper ripped off at the start, so who knows what led to that altercation. So obviously he's getting in there to stand up for his brother, or I don't know what the case is, but again, Nick Dacos, I'm sure he's retaliating to some shit, because that doesn't seem entirely in character to punch someone in the stomach.
Was there actual footage of that strike?
Yeah.
Because he was blocking. Was there another angle?
No.
What about Zapruder? What's he got up his sleeve?
I think he said it was someone on the grassy knoll. Just...
But I mean, I thought looking at and I've only seen the one angle where the Carlton suck bends over like he's been shot and drops to his knee. He dropped his knees. That's what a legitimate knee drop looked like. But you don't actually see him strike. So how do you find someone for something that's inconclusive? Unless there's another angle they haven't shown.
I don't know.
Is Nick just so honest he went up there and said, yeah, I gave him one? Fucking oath I gave him one.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, it's really a frustrating thing. But the thing I like about McRae is he really has that unity around the side. There's too many times in the past, even under Malthouse, where you didn't see players fly the flag, and they're really doing it now, which is great, which is really a hallmark of what Brisbane used to do too. And it probably makes players stand a little bit taller to know, look, every other player on his team's got my back. What about your favourite player, Will Hoskin-Elliott?
Oh, no. I mean, I know you're his biggest critic, but he's actually had a good couple of weeks. And he was good in both halves, I thought. He's been a better player since he's been put back into that forward line.
I think the thing is, though, the games he's played better is when we've really had a run on. And that brings him into the game because he's an outside player for the most part. So, when he's running and then he's getting fed, then he's going to be a bigger contributor. Most of the games under McRae, I mean, they're all these struggles and that for the most part. And, we'd have these periods where we'd just run over the top of opposition. So I think he's just finding it hard to get into the game. But Jack Crisp?
Yep.
Your thoughts on Jack Crisp? Interesting, guys throwing names out. Jack Crisp.
What was his numbers? Because I must say, I he did a couple of nice things that I can remember, but I don't remember him being an absolute standout or anything.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, that goal he kicked, he had no right to kick. If I was a Carlton supporter, I'd be really fucking pissed that he just barges.
I think they are. I think they've expressed that part okay.
But in relation to that goal, he just barged through the pack. Yeah,
I think it's the only way to watch him, to be honest.
Yep,
being pissed.
Still side bottom.
He's again. Look, I think we wrote him off. Well, you probably.
Oh no, you did, not me.
You were doing very good impressions of
you and the chief.
That dub thing, but I think we both sort of thought, probably more me, that I think in that last year under Bucks, he was just a lost cause. He just looked completely like retirement is 2 minutes away, but he's just reinvented himself under McFly. And this year, like, he hits 300 games this weekend.
Yep.
He looks like he's still got another year or two left in him. He's contributing really, really well.
I think I really like about him, he's showing a really good defensive side, which, he's never had to that great extent. He's running back, he's spalling, he's taking marks in defence. So like I'm really, really pleased about
The man reborn. I wouldn't be surprised if his hair grows back.
Pendlebury.
He started well, but he's do you reckon he's carrying something? Maybe he's carried the
Age.
side for a while.
Look,
Well, I
he's
mean,
slowed down.
we'll probably cover this shortly, but I think that he'll be rested certainly over the next week or two, and probably rightly so. I think it'll do him some good. What game record are we aiming for at the end of the year when we win the flag?
I think he was on 367, so you know what he'd be about 380 if plays out the whole year.
Yeah, so there's nothing meritorious about playing him every week. I think he'll probably be rested or subbed or something. And I don't think it'll hurt him. He can come back in the second half of the season a little bit refreshed.
Well, it'll be interesting too now that they have that sub. I mean, Boomer Harvey got to whatever it was, like 515 games, whatever it is. But I think about the last 400 of them were just playing as the tactical sub. He had a couple of years there where they're just sort of bringing him on the sub. So if they kept that sub, Pendles could just come on as a bit of a reliever in the latter part of his career when he's in his 40s, getting up to 600-700 games, just quietly work him up to 1,000 when he's in his 80s. What do you think about? I mean, this is an interesting weird discussion about I won't say we almost got Michael Voss as coach, but he was in the discussion of those final handful.
Clearly he was. The Herald Sun ran with an article about it today, about why we won and Carlton didn't, with the Voss thing. And I'm not talking about the game in general, even though we won and they didn't.
Well, I think part of the reason we won with the Voss thing was we interviewed about 900 candidates, as opposed to Carlton saying, "Hey, Ross Lyon, would you like the job?" And he said yes. And they've gone, "We've got our coach." And then 10 minutes later going, "Oh, actually, we're going to have to interview." And then Lyon going, "Well, fuck off." And they're going, "Well, who's left? How about the guy who came second to David Teague? Have you still got his phone number?" And they went and got Voss, because I don't see that they interviewed anyone. Similar with Essendon, I don't see they really interviewed anyone for, which Scott have they got? Brad Scott.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of Voss, like, what's their president's name? Luke Sayers.
Yeah.
He came out today and said, Voss will be coaching and to the end of his contract, which is usually a death knell when the club comes out and backs the coach.
We're all thinking it. Especially now that Hardwick's come out and announced that he's quitting Richmond.
Yeah. And I was
6 months off, and then I'll take the Blues job next year, thanks.
Yeah. Voss and Cripps had that argument on the boundary line. It doesn't look, with that side, the Carlton should be top 4. I don't know how they're not. I know they've had injuries, but still, to play that slow, dreary, shitty game that they play.
Sorry, I wasn't quick enough to hit the mute button there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's astonishing that they struggle as much as they do. In a lot of ways, they're reminiscent of Collingwood when Buckley first took over, and you're going, geez, under Malthouse, that last couple of years, they played that dynamic football, and under Buckley, they just played that dreary, slow shit. Even though they had to add forwards like Cloak up forward and had this really stellar midfield, you're looking at the side and going, geez, they really look wasted. So, I mean, Carlton looks similar. I mean,
Yeah, there was a list of, they've got every first round pick for the last 20 years playing for them at the moment. They really should be a talent stack side.
Well, they are. I mean,
looking like the spine there was looking exceptionally good. And, I think you were calling that they're a chance to go all the way this year, like you do every year since 1978.
Well, it's funny because I was doing that every year since about 78, but I actually jumped off after Voss got on board, not Joss. Yeah. I mean, Sam Walsh is pick 1, Cherr's pick 3. Retrospectively, Cripps would be pick 1. There's a couple others in that midfield that are pretty highly regarded, Wiedering's pick 1 at fullback. Curnow would be retrospectively pick 1. McKay would be pick 5, top 5 retrospectively. So they've got a lot of talent in that side. They're the guys they've brought in like Ahmed Saad and that, they're really... Ahmed Saad was worth a pick 7 or 8 that they swapped him for, so they've got a lot of talent at the top, but geez, I think you can blame it falls away because we've been playing for about the last 8 weeks with 6, 7, players missing. So
walk-up starts missing, yeah.
Yeah, so they've got enough out there that you'd think they should be winning, and the others should just be role players that are just filling gaps for now, So, no. I mean, they did, well, look, to be fair, they did smash West Coast, and, West Coast is a mighty and proud club.
Might of West Coast, I think you left that part out.
Yeah. It's actually
I
funny
know the
because
Hawks struggled against West Coast, so it does really make Carlton's win look even sweeter.
well, it's actually funny because I was watching the Hawthorn West Coast score, and the Hawthorn were like 96 points up, and I said to a friend, "Geez, I hope they get to 100." And he goes, "How much time left?" And I looked it up, and it had about 8 minutes left. And he goes, "Oh, they'll probably get up to 200 in that 8 minutes," and he wasn't far wrong. They kicked about another 4 goals, Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about the game?
No.
To smash these sucks. We're 3 wins ahead of them now.
So what are we up to in the tally now? 131 to
128
128
or something, yeah. And
so I'm trying to get this throat wet. I can't remember whether it was. I think it was actually before the game. McFly was interviewed, and he said that they brought up that differential, and they'd spoken about it the day before about the win loss thing, and I think it's good that they look at that. You remember like Shaw and I don't know whether the Bucks actually held that Carlton rivalry all that high, and I don't think McFly really makes it a hate thing, but I think he does play off the energy that the game usually has. You guaranteed to have a massive crowd there, and you've got a lot. It was their home game, so you would think that they outnumbered us up until about quarter time when most of them would have left. But you would think that there's things there that you can use. Not so much. I don't think it means a lot to the players as it does to us. But there's fuel there that you can make it a little bit competitive.
I think some of the players do care about. I mean, Lee Matthews also demythologized the rivalries, and Tony Shaw did that too. And I'm pretty sure Buckley also had that view. Like a game is a game. You just it's no different to anyone else. Whereas McRae, I think McRae's done and doing for the culture what Buckley tried to do, but McRae's had a lot more human touch, whereas Buckley had a very corporate, bringing in leading teams and all that sort of shit. But I think McRae does look at that rivalry, say this is a fucking big rivalry. Hey, you got to win this one, and you got players there like the Davises who grew up watching their dad, Darcy Moore watching his dad lose grand final. So surely they've got a little bit more feeling invested in the game than if it was just playing, for example, another traditional rival like the Gold Coast Suns.
Yep, that's it. That's a fair comparison.
Yeah, Damien Hardwick has left Richmond.
Yep, yeah, that's a shock. That one. That just blew out of nowhere. Apparently, he hasn't even told the playing group yet. Hopefully, none of them are on Twitter tonight.
No, well, I heard
he's meant to do the formal announcement, I guess, tomorrow, which will be just a foregone conclusion now. It'll be interesting whether he coaches out the year or whether it's exit stage left now.
Well,
apparently it's mental health issues or something. So,
well, I heard Tom Morris talking about it. I mean, I didn't even know Tom Morris is still a journalist, but I heard him talking about it, and he said it was just burnout, and he wouldn't coach out the year either, like he'd done, or he'd have next week, and then he'd be done. So yeah, it's a bit of a shock. As far as I'm aware, he was committed to helping rebuild that club.
Mm.
So it'd be interesting if he takes a year off.
He's been there well over 10 years now, isn't it?
No, it's a lot more than that.
It could be just long enough. It's a strange one to pull up stumps in the middle of the year, though. But the pull of family and all that sort of thing. If it's impacting you at home, then that's like you doing a normal job. You just got to walk away.
Well, I don't know if he did what Dean Madeley did years ago with Dean Madeley when he was coaching North.
Dress up.
No, but when he was coaching North, and he knew the pressure was coming because they were struggling, and he jumped well before everyone expected, and he just said, "I don't want my family going through that speculation for the next month or two." So I don't know.
I've got something else in mind for them.
Well, I don't know if Hardwick's looked at it and just thought, look, we lose a couple, everyone's going to start talking, that I should be gone and all that, and I should just get in front of this and get the fuck out rather than put everyone through that. And that comes on top of Alistair Clarkson taking leave also.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's, you think with Clarkson, though, that's a little bit more. He's obviously been copping a hammer and over whatever the outcome of this alleged story is. I think some of Clarkson's motivation, though, was to just nip it in the bud. It's the best sort of defense to say, well, fuck, this is seriously impacting me, like mentally, all those sorts of things that can force the hand of the AFL to say, well, let's finish this. Which I think after a day or two after that, they pretty much announced that it's in the throes of being wound up. They're doing it in South Australia or something, or I've no idea, but it ends soon. So I'd be interested to see whether Clarko comes back from that.
Yeah. You don't think he left because he realised he was coaching North Melbourne?
I think that might have been a realisation. Do you think they got mirrors there at work? He just caught himself in a polo and thought, what the fuck's going on?
No, potentially. I mean, should we disband North Melbourne? I mean, this is their fourth coach in 17 games, apparently.
Didn't that already happen 5 years ago?
No, I mean, between Noble, the caretaker, and now Clarkson, now Radden's new caretaker. So, should we just get rid of this club? Should we just... I don't want to send Tasmania, like Tasmania to have a new club, but should we send, North over to merge them with the Suns or something?
Would anyone notice if they left?
I would have noticed. Zapruder might fucking notice. Might get North from the... Who are we playing this week? We're playing... North.
North, yeah.
We're playing North. They're actually...
Famous last words.
What do you think of the way North lost against Sydney?
Oh, look, I think the rules are rules and stuff. I thought, I remember thinking if it was us and we lost that way, I'd be feral for about a month after that. Irrespective if it was a clear mistake and all that sort of thing. I think the punishment for it's exceptionally harsh. But it is the rule, but like a free kick and a 50-metre penalty for an interchange infringement, it's not likely to tip the balance of the game in any particular way. You probably think maybe just throw the ball up or a free kick to someone. Look, at that stage, a free kick still would have had whoever kicked it. He was about 6 metres out on so he would have probably goaled from it anyway. But I thought up to that point, like Sydney are terrible, but North fought admirably. I think they probably deserve the win. But yeah.
Well, I saw an interesting point that, I think they said that Greenwood was the extra rotation. But he had enough time to get to the other end of the ground and be tackled, and that's where the ball up came from. So why did they take so long to side it? Why wasn't it called the moment he ran onto the ground?
Yeah, well, the thing is, there's 3 tiers of alert they get leading up to that, the 75. According to John Ralph, they should probably get another one at 75. So he clearly had the thinking cap on. He's a genius. Did you know that? He's a genius. But he had ample warning. I don't know how they actually got it wrong. Apparently they got screens. The letters change from black to red when you've exceeded, not exceeded, but when you've hit your limit. So I think everyone must have just caught up in the in that defensive aspect of the game at that stage, trying to hold on, that they just completely lost the plot.
Should just attach detonators to the players, so if they go over the rotations, we just detonate them on the spot, and that just saves everyone.
All those neck things like in the Running Man.
Yeah, that'd be good.
They try and run onto the ground, it takes their head clean off. Again, if it was North, would anyone notice?
Well, that's a good point. Well, that's what I was going to say. Playing North, so, I mean, that was really spirited. It's actually probably going to help us but they had that spirited game and they lost it in such controversial circumstances. They're probably just running around and going, oh, fuck this club. This club's just cursed and doomed, and maybe we should get a navy blue emblem on the front or something. So, yeah, I mean, I think hopefully we just smash them. We've got 2 games against North and West Coast, and we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but, we should beat both of them by 84 goals each.
Do you reckon? I think both of them are a chance of beating us by 10 goals.
And you think that, we would have penciled these ones in as wins.
Oh, you'd hope so, but you never know.
Well, like I said, going back to beating Carlton, it's previously, and this is also on the Malthouse, we've dropped games that, you haven't expected to drop. And they've cost us ladder positions and, this and that. Whereas with Macrae, they're really, taking the finals out of consideration. But as far as home and away goes, they're winning games that, you think usually they'd drop them. They'd drop a game, that would cost them a ladder position or whatever the case. And they're fucking winning. He really has imbued within them that.
I think you've got to take that long-term view that I think this year finishing first or second and having those home finals is going to be paramount. And I think that's what if we're clearly talking finals, and we should be, then we want to finish as best as we possibly can. So I don't think you're going to approach any of these games like just go out there and have some fun today, boys. You still got to go out there and win. Either of those sides could have one of those days where everything clicks for them, and you've just got to make sure that you don't give them respect that they deserve. That you just don't go out there expecting to win just by running up. Now, having said that, I think we probably will rest a couple of older blokes, but I think it's about time that there's a couple of guys coming up like Carmichael or McRae or somebody. Harvey Harrison, he gets named every week. He must be doing something. That they deserve, a couple of weeks running around, and we rest a couple of the older boys. I don't think we'll obviously rest Sidey this week because they started flogging the merchandise today, so he's obviously a Monty. But Pendles and stuff, Adams, you might find that at some point you've got to trial some of the replacements, and these are probably the good games to do it in.
There you tip.
North by 10 goals.
Okay, I'll say Collingwood by 64. Final thoughts?
Great win to beat the Blues. I mean, it wasn't a great win, but it was just great to win, if you know what I mean.
All right. Okay, well, that's it from us. Later.
That's it from us.
See you next week.
We should be side by side, sticking together next week. Well, without the sticky part.
Later.
Catch.